On the night of her wedding, she was accused of having a hidden pregnancy for over a month. 30 lashes, thrown into the backyard and banned for 5 years. One day, someone unexpectedly discovered a small group in the courtyard. Hey, this is Cangcang's territory. Trembling around can be fatal, said Xiaotuanzi Nai, gesturing at him. Who is Cangcang? Who is this? Again. Everyone treats her as an ugly abandoned concubine. Until later, it was discovered that the First Pavilion in the world honored her as a guest of honor, and the Lord of the 100 Grass Valley flattered her warmly. Even the Southern Gu King threatened not to marry her unless she was her. Someone angrily tore up the divorce notice and said, Yucang. How dare you abandon me from beginning to end? No way. Novel keyword. Surprise. The queen kicked over the prince's wheelchair without a pop-up window, shocked. The queen kicked over the prince's wheelchair with one kick, shocked. The queen kicked over the prince's wheelchair with one kick. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Hidden Knots of Pearls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Hidden Knots of Pearls. Pain. The excruciating pain struck like a wave. Broken memories and body pain intertwined in confusion, and Yucang opened his eyes in a daze, feeling a heavy object pressing on his body. In her struggle, she touched something cold. But before he could figure out the situation, he fainted again. In the 23rd year of the Cangcang calendar of the Great Zhou dynasty, it was spring. The king of Yen married the ugly woman Yu as his wife. The king of Yen is not good at behavior, and the Yu family has a bull-sized birthmark on their face. The pairing of disabled and ugly women has become a popular joke among the public. On the night of our wedding. Prince Yan's mansion. Yucang sat by the bed, unable to wait for his newlywed husband, but heard the chaotic footsteps coming from outside. Before she could open the door was rudely knocked open by someone. Bastard. If it weren't for Ruoshui telling me, I wouldn't have known you were 2 months pregnant. The man in the wheelchair had a gloomy expression and led a group of guards to rush in. What? I didn't expect that sister you had already married His Highness as she wished, but she was still unsatisfied and did such shameless things without His Highness's knowledge. It's not worth dying. Your Highness must not be merciless. A woman stood behind the King of Yen. Despite her delicate tone, she spoke the most malicious words. Before Yucang could speak, someone grabbed his neck. The air withdrew, leaving her brain blank. Let go. Yucang fell in love with the King of Yen. In order to marry into the Yen prince's mansion, he used all means, even willing to frame the person he was pleased with. The King of Yen had already harbored a deep hatred towards her. Today, I want her life even more. But they didn't know that Yucang now was no longer the infatuated fool he used to be. As a descendant of a medical family known as the Holy Hand Poison Doctor, she will not sit idly by. At the moment when her chest was about to burst, she suddenly opened her eyes, pulled out the hairpin from her head, and fiercely thrust it into the eyes of the King of Yen. The King of Yen didn't expect this woman to dare to fight back, so he quickly let go. Your Highness. The woman behind him exclaimed in surprise. Sister Yu has a heart full of snakes and scorpions. Even though you didn't uphold the principles of women first, your Highness only taught you a lesson. How dare you still harm others? This person is Yi Ruoshui. She is the daughter of Yi Shao, the head of the hospital, and also the beloved of the King of Yen. Yi Ruoshui showed kindness to the King of Yen for saving his life. The two of them were about to make a marriage agreement, but they didn't expect to be stabbed by Yucang and calculated that Yi Ruoshui would fall for the throne by Prince Chen Muxunli, so this matter had to be abandoned. Now both of them hate her to the bone. Today, Yi Ruoshui told the King of Yen that Yucang was already 2 months pregnant. How could the King of Yen not be angry with new enemies and old grudges? Cough. Cough cough cough, Miss Yi, who lost her virginity before marriage, has the face to accuse others of not abiding by women's morals. It's really eye-opening. Yutsang breathed heavily in the air while sneering. Yi Ruoshui and the King of Yen both changed their faces. Bitch! You're on the brink of death, dare you speak hard? Someone, whip and serve. With a single command. Yutsang was dragged into the hospital. The whip was fiercely thrown at her, regardless of whether she was truly pregnant. She was torn apart and her clothes were soaked in blood. Only those eyes are clear and firm. I didn't expect Sister Yu to be such a person. When she tried to marry His Highness without any means, it turned out that she was just trying to cover up her own filth. Yi Ruoshui's tears welled up, his eyes flickering with pleasure. I don't know, a person who has lost his innocence. How could he be so embarrassed? To accuse others of being dirty. Yutsang sneered and squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. You. Yi Ruoshui's face changed drastically, you still need to argue. Give me a hard beating. After finishing the fight, lock the courtyard door and do not provide water or food. Let's see how hard she can speak, said the King of Yen in a deep voice. At this point, Yutsang could no longer hold on and completely fainted. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Whose Small Group? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Whose Small Group 5 years later. After 5 years, Mujiang reappeared outside the unnamed courtyard. The woman in the unnamed courtyard, he thought she had died long ago, but he didn't expect that she still had a way to stir up trouble in this field. It's like seeking death. He had a gloomy expression on his face and was pushed towards the courtyard. Before we could even reach the entrance of the small courtyard, we saw a small black figure sneaking around in the garden. This is a garden that has been in ruins for a long time. He detests Yutsang and has never set foot in any place around the unnamed courtyard. The nearby garden has not been repaired for years, and now it is overgrown with weeds and desolate like ruins. But right in the tall haystack, the round and pitch-black shadow immediately caught his attention. Your Highness, that's. Chuanlu also saw the shadow. He is the personal guard of Mujiang. Although he doesn't care about the affairs of the royal family, he is still well aware of the people in the mansion. But he had never heard of such a little brat in the backyard of the royal mansion. Go and take a look, Mujiang ordered in a cold voice. Chuanlu Iyan turned the wheelchair in the direction. After the weeds, there was a small medicinal field, with the fragrance of grass and trees blowing in the wind. The little one, who was only as tall as his wheelchair, was busy carrying a kettle in the field. Woo-woo, stinky Cangcang, bad Cangcang. She knew how to hire child labor. Even though I only stole half a day's worth of laziness, why do you want me to work all day to pay back? Black-hearted capitalist, I won't talk to her again in the future. Xiao Budian was busy on the side, still muttering incessantly. Mujiang has good ear power and can naturally hear clearly. He had long forgotten the name of Yutsang, and the only memorable title in his mind was, that woman. Therefore, when he heard Xiao Budian complain, he did not immediately react. That little one is cute and watery. Her round eyes and chubby face look soft and tender. And although he complained verbally, the work in his hands never stopped. His serious and aggrieved appearance was very lovable. Whose child is this from? Why did he sneak into the backyard of his palace and even set up a medicinal field here? Who is there? Who are you? Why are you in my king's territory? Mujiang saw that he had discovered him, but he didn't dodge and decided to let Chuanlu push him out. He exuded authority and domineering aura all over his body. Little one looked at him with a guarded face, then at his wheelchair. Your territory. No, this is Cangcang's territory. You must not speak recklessly, otherwise if she finds out, you will die very tragically. He stared wide and earnestly advised. This thoughtful expression made Mujiang couldn't help but want to laugh. In front of this little one, his temperament, which had become vicious and violent due to leg disease for many years, showed no signs of anger. Whose child are you from, and who is Cangcang? How did you come to this prince's mansion and occupy this place? He had forgotten about this area for many years, but he didn't expect others to take advantage of it. However, he was also curious about the Cangcang he mentioned. Cangcang is Cangcang. I mean, this uncle, it's so strange. How come I haven't seen you before? Don't run around here. Although it's a medicinal field, there are several poisonous herbs planted here that are very dangerous. You look like such a vegetable. Well, I mean, you don't seem to understand pharmacology. If you walk around randomly, it's easy to get poisoned and die suddenly. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Nameless Courtyard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Nameless Courtyard. Xiao Budian's face was filled with serious reminders. Mujiang lowered his face and said, "Oh. Who dares to plant poisonous grass in this prince's mansion and let a child take care of it?" His eyebrows were like distant mountains, and his whole body was filled with malice. Being bedridden for years makes his skin look pale and colorless, except for his thin lips, which have a dark red evil aura and exude the danger of bloodthirsty. His slender fingers lightly tapped on the armrest of the wheelchair. At this moment, another penetrating voice also came from the other side. "You Xiaotuan. Let's eat." I don't know if it's an illusion, but he seems to have heard this voice somewhere before. But I can't remember. This is. Ah, uncle, I can't chat with you anymore. Goodbye. Upon hearing this voice, Little Bit jumped up from the medicine field and didn't even have time to put down his things. He just grabbed the kettle and ran into the weeds with his butt bumping. At his height, the weeds instantly covered up his figure. Mujiang frowned. This is the first time someone has called him uncle. However, upon careful consideration, his several imperial brothers had all started families one after another, and Mu Xuanli had already had a daughter. In theory, he was at the age of becoming an uncle. At this thought, his face darkened a bit. When I looked up again, I couldn't see that little figure anymore. "Your Highness, do you want to go down and catch that little child?" Chuanlu asked in a low voice. "No need." By listening to the direction of the weeds, it can be inferred that they are heading towards the unnamed courtyard. Mujiang raised his hand and asked Chuanlu to push him towards the direction of the unnamed courtyard. The gate of the small courtyard is tightly locked, and a thick layer of ash has already fallen on the lock buckle. It is unknown how long it has been since anyone moved it. But as I approached, I found the aroma of rice wafting in the yard. The closer you get, the more pronounced the fragrance becomes. Mujiang looked up and saw the soft and fluffy little ball hanging on the wall just now, struggling to flip inside with its legs flapping, looking very laborious. He placed the kettle on the ground. Mujiang saw this and his eyebrows furrowed even tighter. He didn't understand how the little one climbed over such a high wall and why he got stuck there. Before he could even speak, he heard Xiao Budian cry and say, "Wu, Cangcang, I was so tired from work just now and it was so hard. Now I can't even lift my hands. Can you hold me down?" This voice is soft and sticky, so cute that it is irresistible. Mujiang doesn't like this soft little dot. But upon hearing these words, my heart softened for a moment. Just as I was about to ask Chuanlu to help, I heard a woman's voice coming from inside. "Come on, I taught you how to distinguish medicinal herbs before. Aren't you going to dig them out and play? If you don't come down, I'll let you plow the land for another day." "Ah. No, I'm fine now. I'll come down soon. I don't want to do farm work anymore." Xiao Budian immediately stood up and didn't dare to act coquettishly anymore. "You. Tsang. Mujiang finally remembered the name of the voice master. Originally, that Cangcang mentioned by Xiao Budian was Yutsang, who was ordered to be locked up in the yard by him back then. The fragrance of rice wafting out from the small courtyard indicates that she not only did not die, but also lived a good life. As for that little one, he also roughly guessed his identity. That damn woman. Not only do they not want to repent, but they also dare to give birth to evil seeds. He let Chuanlu kick open the door and push him in. Bitch, you're looking for death. Yutsang, who is washing his hands. Yu Xiaotuan, who is about to go down. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Dare to disrespect your highness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Dare to disrespect your highness. The small courtyard is clean and tidy, with tables and chairs, medicine racks, and a new side room and grass shed have been built. There is a row of tools on the wall of the side room, and inside the grass shed is a stove, with hot air emanating from the large pot. The rice has a strong aroma. Mujiang looked coldly at the woman in the yard. He was about to forget what that woman looked like, only remembering that she had an extremely ugly birthmark on her face. But now, she is dressed in a delicate and graceful silk dress, with a delicate beauty. Although the birthmark is still on her face, it doesn't seem as repulsive as many years ago. Now she has a calm and composed demeanor with every gesture, like a noble legitimate daughter of a noble family, which is too intimidating to be looked upon. Is this Yutsang? Why doesn't he remember what she looks like? Why did you come with me? Let's go, we'll die. This is the first time in all these years that Yu Xiaotuan has met a stranger in the royal mansion, and he doesn't dislike it, so he doesn't want him to die so quickly. Mujiang was still in a state of shock. When he heard Xiao Budian's words, his face suddenly darkened. He said, "Is that so? The king also wants to see who has the courage." I said who it was. It turned out that His Highness came with great pleasure. Yutsang looked at him. She didn't expect the King of Yen to come. His gaze swept over his wheelchair and then moved away, seemingly indifferent. She can't be polite either. Upon seeing this, Chuanlu also scolded, bold. Do you dare to disrespect His Highness? Your Highness is the majestic King of Yen. Who dares to disrespect him? It's just that our place is remote and we're afraid of not treating you properly, which may have neglected your Highness. During the gap between his words, Yutsang had already taken down Yu Xiaotuan from the wall and asked, I wonder if your Highness has any guidance on your visit today. At this moment, two pairs of eyes, big and small, stared at him. Just looking at it alone doesn't make me feel it, but now that those two people are together, their eyes are extremely similar, and their facial features also have many similarities. Although they were carved from the same mold, they are definitely biological. Mujiang's gloomy face seemed to be coated with a layer of frost. He said coldly, I didn't expect that you would dare to leave behind the seed of that adulterer. If I had known this, I shouldn't have mercy on you in the first place. I should have directly punished you with a cracked carriage. The love for the little one just now instantly disappeared. He felt extremely angry and humiliated. It is well known that the king of Yen Mujiang was cruel and ruthless, killing people like a horse. It's not surprising to say such things. Upon hearing those two words, Yutsang felt a chill in his eyes, like an icy edge, about to prick it out. She said, Your Highness is really good at joking. You didn't show any mercy on those 30 lashes back then. It's all up to my own abilities to survive, not your kindness. She can even be very certain that if it weren't for her, but anyone else who was wearing this body in the first place, she would have been tortured to the point of leaving only a skeleton. Where can we still live to this day? He disappeared for many years, but suddenly appeared today, with his IQ still not online and not speaking, and every sentence jumping wildly above her bottom line. It's better to mute him with medicine and keep him clean. Thinking of this, a fierce intent appeared in Yutsang's eyes. But before she could even take action, Xiaotuan struggled out of her arms, stood with his hips crossed in front of her, tilted his head, and pointed at Mujiang's nose with his chubby little finger, saying, "So you're that bad guy Yan Wang. There's a way to heaven, you don't go, there's no door to hell. Oh, I can't remember, anyway, you're dead today." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Uncle Strange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Uncle Strange. Xiaotuan suddenly became arrogant, turned around, took out a small broom from the shed, and fiercely hit Mujiang's wheelchair. He originally intended to greet him directly on his lap, but I don't know if he saw that his legs were inconvenient. When the small broom swung over, he changed direction and didn't greet him on his leg. That broom is not big, it looks like it's tailor-made, and hitting Mujiang doesn't hurt either. But the dust on the broom flew away, making the nose itch. Bad guys. You're not allowed to bully Cangcang. He has a strong aura. He kept moving forward and was about to squeeze onto Mujiang's cold leg. Upon seeing the situation, Chuanlu quickly stepped forward and overthrew the person to the ground. How unreasonable. You must not be disrespectful to your Highness. Ah. Xiaotuan fell heavily. Xiaotuan. Yutsang exclaimed in surprise and quickly stepped forward to pick up the person. Mujiang was also annoyed at first. Seeing Xiao Bujian being heavily pushed to the ground, he instinctively slapped Chuanlu and said, "I'm looking for death." Chuanlu was somewhat bewildered by the beating, but still knelt down to explain, I am protecting your Highness. I want you to mind your own business. This, my subordinate. Chuanlu doesn't know how to answer. You two don't have to pretend here. If there's nothing else, please go back. Yutsang, too lazy to watch him act, turned to the kitchen and took out a torch, pointing to the two people, "You're not welcome here." Yutsang. This is my king's territory, how dare you be reckless? Yutsang sneered. The corners of the eyes stained with large birthmarks reveal a fierce intent. Don't let me be reckless, the results are different. Your Highness has never been lenient due to my low-key restraint. Now, I don't need to act according to your face. Get out, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. She held the child in one hand, although it was a fine silk dress, the aura emanating from her body was sharper and sharper than she had ever seen before, completely different from what he had seen 5 years ago. That ordinary fire stick made her exude the aura of a sheathed sword. The slender wrist that faintly exposed the cuffs was fair and transparent, making people dizzy. Mujiang's cold eyebrows furrowed tightly. Chuanlu felt the dangerous aura emanating from her and prepared to reveal her weapon. The atmosphere is about to explode. At this moment, Xiaotuan, who was held in his arms by Yutsang with one hand, was not idle either. He lost his small broom and took out a small shovel from his pocket. This should have been the tool he used to manage the medicine field when he was punished just now. It still had soil on it, but he followed the basic principle of not losing the battle and also learned from Yutsang's appearance, making a prepared appearance. But this made the originally serious atmosphere dull and cute. Mujiang furrowed his brow, although his expression remained serious. Upon closer inspection, he noticed a slight disappearance of the veins on his forehead. Upon seeing this, Yutsang also lowered his head. Seeing her son holding a dirty shovel in his little hand, she also changed her face and quickly put down the fire stick. She scolded, "Oh, how many times have you said, don't stuff a shovel that has been dug with soil into your clothes? It's so dirty, you little skinny monkey. Go wash your hands." "Well, but I still have to fight the villains with Cangcang." Xiaotuan hugged his small shovel tightly, his watery big eyes flickering, cute and aggrieved. Yutsang felt helpless and soft-hearted. She put down Xiaotuan and said in a comforting voice, "There's no bad guys. I'm playing with them. You go wash your hands quickly, and when your mother sends these two strange uncles out, I'll come back to eat with you." Uncle Strange number 1. Uncle Strange number 2. You. Your Highness, what do you have to say? Let's talk privately. Yutsang didn't let him finish speaking. Or do you want to fight me in front of the child? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Fighting Cockroaches. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Fighting Cockroaches. Of course, Mujiang would not have any concerns about Yutsang. But after seeing the little one running away, he chose to temporarily endure it. He asked Chuan Lu to push him out. I originally wanted to ask her to explain the little one's situation outside the door, but as soon as they left, Yutsang immediately closed the courtyard door behind them. The vibration on the lintel shattered his nose. The cold air in Mujiang was extremely cold, almost causing Chuan Lu to kick the door again. However, before he could give the order this time, he vaguely heard the sound of the latch falling in the yard, as well as the calm and ruthless eviction from the other party. Take your time, I won't see you off. You. Tsang. Your Highness, what should we do now? Chuan Lu dared not act rashly and could only seek instructions. Mujiang clenched the armrest of the wheelchair and after a while, a word squeezed out from between his teeth. Go back. He needs to first figure out what has happened in the Nameless courtyard in recent years. After driving out the unwelcome guests, Yutsang returned to the yard. Xiaotuan had already washed his hands and sat obediently at the table, waiting for dinner to begin. Yutsang's bad mood cleared up slightly and he sat down to eat with him. Xiaotuan doesn't like taking naps. After lunch, she played with him for a while and also taught him how to distinguish medicinal herbs. In the evening, the mother and son had dinner together. She told Xiaotuan the story of the flying cat fighting against the little monster, and finally managed to lull the child to sleep before getting up and walking into the yard. Outside, the ice wall hangs high, the moon is bright and the stars are sparse. The unnamed courtyard in the late night was completely silent, and the cold wind swept through the mist, stretching gracefully in the sky. The old tree in the courtyard has withered branches, winding around a lonely corner, shrouded in the thin mist of moonlight, as if draped in a silk veil, exuding a strange charm. Yutsang sat on a stone bench in the courtyard, gazing at the endless night sky. Today, Mujiang suddenly appeared in an unnamed courtyard, which seemed like an accident. However, no matter what, he had already determined that he and Xiaotuan were the ones who embarrassed him, and there would definitely be no peace in the future. It seems that she needs to take some action to avoid future harassment. Yutsang took out a pocket watch from his sleeve. This is a prop she uses to hypnotize patients. She accidentally came to this unfamiliar time and space, carrying only a few commonly used items, and this pocket watch is one of them. Since he saw it, let him forget everything he saw today. And the guard who pushed the wheelchair. Cangcang, it's so late. Are you going out? Just as he was about to leave, Xiaotuan's voice suddenly came from behind. He slept for a while, probably not until Yutsang, so he got up to look for it. Well, I'll go fight a cockroach, Yutsang fooled him. Ah. It's so late, can you still see cockroaches? Xiaotuan expressed doubt about this. Yutsang smiled and touched his little head, saying, you can see it. Today, let the cockroach taste the iron fist of justice. You go to bed obediently, and I will be back soon. Be careful, Cangcang, Xiaotuan advised thoughtfully, and also helped her trim a strand of hair that Yutsang had accidentally dropped behind her ear. Seeing his obedient appearance, Yutsang couldn't help but laugh. This child was an accident for her. Before coming here, Yutsang had never been a mother, but since he was born safely, she would definitely protect and love him, learn to be a qualified mother, and let him grow up healthy. However, the premise is that Mujiang should not come to interfere. Thinking of this, Yutsang changed into black casual clothes and quietly pulled out an unnamed courtyard from the wall, diving towards the autumn maple courtyard of Mujiang. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Mujiang Han, your mother shouts you up to eat. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7 Mujiang Han, your mother shouts you up to eat in the autumn breeze courtyard. Mujiang Han lay quietly in the pitch-black room, not falling asleep. After he returned, he interrogated the servant in charge of the unnamed courtyard, but the servant was an old woman who fainted without saying a word and had to wait another day for the trial. 5 years no see, why has Xiaotuanzi undergone such a big change, and which dog man she gave birth to that soft little dot? He has never touched that woman. When he ordered the lockdown of the yard, she was already 2 months pregnant. If this was the child in her belly back then, he had to admit that their lives were very hard. Just as I was thinking of this, a sound suddenly came from the window. Mujiang Han immediately became vigilant. Through the veil, he saw a thin and small black figure tiptoeing in and slowly approaching him. Assassin. Over the years, he has been assassinated more than once. He could also guess who exactly wanted his life. I didn't expect that he had already arrived in this field. His brothers and sisters still refused to give up and insisted on putting him to death. Mujiang Han's eyes were cold and gloomy. He calmly touched the dagger hidden under the bedding. Just as he was about to find the right moment to kill the assassin, the thin figure also made a sound. Mujiang Han, Mujiang Han. The person's voice was soft. Called to. I don't know if it's his illusion, but I always feel that this voice is a bit familiar, as if I've heard it somewhere before. And it was not long ago. Xiaotuanzi knew that her behavior was somewhat intellectually impaired, but she had no choice. To hypnotize, she had to first make sure that the other person was already in deep sleep before she could begin to consciously suggest. She didn't know that Mujiang Han had not slept through now. Lying in bed, Mujiang Han didn't know for a moment whether he should respond to her. What made him even more puzzled was how this damn woman sneaked into his room. Are all those secret guards outside just trash cans? Mujiang Han, your mother asked you to get up for dinner, Xiaotuanzi deliberately gave a plain noddy. She dare not speak too loudly, afraid of disturbing the dark guards outside. Although she didn't understand why this guy had to guard so tightly even though he couldn't compete for the throne anymore. Probably suffering from delusional persecution. Mujiang Han was thinking that if this damn woman were an assassin, he would never show mercy and would definitely take her head with a knife. But upon hearing this, he couldn't bear it anymore. He raised his hand and grabbed her collar, pulling her over completely. Xiaotuanzi was about to open his pocket watch when a dark figure flashed in front of him, followed by a whirlwind. Before she could figure out the situation, she was grabbed onto the bed. The 4 eyes were facing each other, and the atmosphere was somewhat awkward. Are you here? What are you doing? Mujiang Han gritted his teeth and asked. He looked angrily at the woman sitting on him. Moonlight enveloped her like a light veil and neon clothes. In the darkness, the terrifying birthmark on her face became much dimmer, almost indistinct, like a fairy wrapped in moonlight, mysterious and dangerous. After a moment's reaction, Xiaotuanzi said, "Oh, do you have no process of waking up or falling asleep? This is not very healthy. It may be kidney deficiency." Ben, Wang, no, sleep. The light and thin fabric cannot conceal the temperature on his body. He has a strange heat on his body. At this moment, a black shadow appeared silently in the room. Unlike Xiaotuanzi's previous sneaky appearance, when the opponent appeared, the long sword had already been unsheathed and blood was dripping down the blade. A murderous aura rushed towards me. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. You discovered my king's secret. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 8. You discovered my king's secret. Xiaotuanzi understood the current situation at a glance. She exclaimed, bad luck. She just came to the community to give warmth, and didn't expect to encounter a real assassin. Moreover, the assassin's night vision ability was quite good, and through the screen curtain, she could see the strange postures of the 2 of them now. He sneered and said, "Death under the peony flower, being a ghost is also charming. I didn't expect His Royal Highness Yen to be able to do this kind of thing with both legs like this. It's good, then I'll send you all on the road together. Be a happy ghost on the Huangquan road. Seeking death. Mujiang pushed Yutsang out of bed and revealed his dagger to face the assassin's long sword. Blood droplets splattered on the blade, falling onto Yutsang's skirt. She frowned. But no one noticed her displeasure now. Mujiang propped up his body and fought against the assassin. The dark guards she had seen before entering did not appear, and she should have been buried by the assassin's sword. Yutsang didn't want to meddle in this matter. The cat hunched over and prepared to run away. After several encounters with Mujiang, the assassin was surprised by his skills and couldn't find a way to break through. In the midst of lightning and fire, he suddenly turned his head and aimed his spear at Yutsang. The long sword mercilessly chopped off. The sharp blade only requires a gentle force to cut off her head. Yutsang, who was originally moving outward, seemed to feel something. At this moment, he suddenly turned his head, but only saw the blade coming towards him. She suddenly fell silent in her ear, as if only the blade could be seen. Mujiang saw it. He was too lazy to save the woman who was wearing a green hat for him, but when he thought of that soft and cute little one, he didn't want him to lose his mother at a young age. Anyway, his treacherous father is bound to die. As for Yutsang, we can let her live an extra 2 days for now. Thinking of this, Mujiang's eyes flashed with a hint of darkness. At a critical moment of life and death, he suddenly got out of bed and appeared ghostly behind the assassin. The dagger pierced through the assassin's heart. Blood spurts out. Warm blood splattered Yutsang's face, dyeing her dress red. The tall man standing behind the assassin, with his slender legs firmly on the ground, did not have the sickly appearance he had during the day. She froze in place. The man pushed away the body and crouched down in front of her. The blood-stained hand lifted her chin. He looked like a different person, with a fierce aura emanating from him, as if he was holding on to her throat. You have discovered my king's secret. How should I deal with you? You didn't. Yutsang looked at him incredulously. Yes, I'm not lame. It should be said that I injured my legs and feet before and haven't fully recovered. However, I still have more than enough time to deal with you. He pulled a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth, his red lips stained with blood, and his evil spirit was dangerous. Yutsang's body trembled slightly and he didn't speak. Mujiang thought she was afraid. Your Highness. At this moment, Chuanlu also appeared with a person and saw the assassin lying on the ground. There was no reaction in his eyes, but he was surprised by the sudden appearance of Yutsang. Waste, I can't even stop a woman. Your Highness, forgive me. He quickly led everyone to kneel down. Mujiang let out a cold snort, let go of Yutsang, and turned towards the big bed. He sat by the bed with a golden sword and leisurely instructed, take this woman back. Starting from today, we will send more people to guard the unnamed courtyard. No one is allowed to enter or exit without the permission of this king. I'll obey you, my subordinate. Besides, the weeds she planted outside the yard. Mujiang thought for a moment and suddenly showed a wicked smile, burn them. Mujiang. How dare you? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Transactions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Transactions. Oh. Mujiang turned his head to look at her. Do you know who he's talking to? He can tolerate the softness of Yu Xiaotuan, but it does not mean that Yutsang is also eligible to enjoy this honor. Of course, Yutsang understood his meaning. This person is a pervert who can drag pregnant women out and whip them to death. His blood flowed with violence and cruelty, let alone any mercy towards her. Yutsang didn't want to argue with him, but if he burns down the medicinal field and the small group wakes up tomorrow to find out, it will definitely be very sad. That's all her and Xiaotuan's hard work, we can't just burn it down like this. The king asked you, what did you see just now? Questioning sounded. A layer of cold sweat rose from behind Yucang. She clearly felt that the killing intent emanating from the other person at this moment was not just for fun. If she answers incorrectly, she will really die. I just saw that although His Highness' leg disease has mostly recovered, there are still lesions that have not been removed. Before she could finish speaking, Chuanliu's sword had already unsheathed and landed on her neck. Yucang seemed unconscious and continued, there is a medicine in my field called Xianlingpi that can treat your highness's leg disease. However, this medicine only grows once every 3 years. If your highness burns it on fire, it may be difficult to find another medicine with the same effect. Immortal spirit pie. How could it be? Dr. Zhang once said, immortal spirit pie is hard to find in the world, even in the 100 Grass Valley, it's hard to find its trace. How could you? Chuanlu exclaimed excitedly. Xianlingpi is the medicine they have been searching for many years. But now Yucang said, he grows up in the backyard of the royal mansion. Who can believe it? So you also know this medicine, so I don't need to say more about its efficacy, Yucang lowered his eyes and said. If it weren't for her life being threatened, she wouldn't have made a deal with him. It is difficult to cultivate the medicinal seedlings of this immortal spirit. She also tried for a long time. It has to be said that the medical conditions in Yendi are really backward, and there is also a shortage of resources. Some common medicinal herbs in her era are cherished and excellent here. When she traveled, she didn't bring much, except for a few commonly used tools, it was just a pack of herbal seeds. But thanks to these seeds, she still hasn't starved to death. Your Highness, this. Chuanlu turned his head and requested permission. God knows how long they have been searching for immortal spirit pie. Previously, the old man from Baichao Valley was not willing to die. He was only willing to use a little bit at a time for His Highness, and even sold it at a high price. Now there is actually a large area planted in the backyard of their royal mansion. If they can wait for the medicine to grow, they won't have to look at their immortal faces anymore. How can I believe you? If your Highness doesn't believe it, you can pick a medicinal seedling to study. Since there are doctors among you who understand medicine, they should be able to verify whether I am lying, Yucang said cautiously. She appeared harmless to humans and animals, and there was no sense of danger from her, as if she were a floating creature that could be crushed at any time. Mujiang Han naturally forgot to ask her how she managed to cross the heavy guards and enter her own room. Outside, it's even louder to remember. An hour is 3/4. It's getting light soon. Mu Jianghan is in a fiefdom, although he doesn't need to go to court, there are still many things to do, and he doesn't have time to waste too much time on a useless woman. He instructed Chuanlu to go with her to get the medicine. This is equivalent to temporarily letting her and Yao Tian go. Yucang still cooperated and thanked His Highness for his kindness. Mujiang smiled coldly, expressing satisfaction with her low brow and pleasing expression. Little did they know that as he left the room, a faint light flashed through Yucang's lowered eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. You, go make me tea. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. You, go make me tea. After handing over the medicinal seedlings to Chuanlu, Yucang returned to the unnamed courtyard. Inside the room, Yu Xiaotuan sat on the bed wrapped in a blanket, several corners tightly tucked in by himself, like a large puppet. Upon seeing Yucang return, tears welled up in his round and big eyes, and he spoke in a milky voice, Cangcang, you have finally come back. I am afraid. Why, did you have another nightmare? I'm not afraid, I'm here. Seeing Yu Xiaotuan, her cold heart instantly softened. She hugged him and comforted him softly. It was her negligence. I shouldn't have gone for so long. If it weren't for some accidents, she should have come back long ago. She lulled Yu Xiaotuan to sleep and then went to the desk in the corner. She took an unnamed book from the bookshelf and, by candlelight, wrote down what she had seen last night. The increasingly fierce usurpation of the throne by various kings, and the fact that King Mujiang's legs were disabled, which was not true. She put down her pen and stretched lazily. The trembling appearance in the autumn wind courtyard before no longer exists, and in those clear and shrewd eyes, there is a bloodthirsty gleam. Although the hypnosis plan has temporarily failed, her gains yesterday were quite good. I don't know how much this news can sell for. Maybe it can make her and Yu Xiaotuan worry-free for the rest of their lives. However, if this news is sold out, both the Yen Prince's mansion and its foolish master will be finished. Before that, she needs to find a way out for herself to prevent the city gate from catching fire and causing harm to the fish in the pond. Mujiang, can you be considered intelligent and confused for a while? No, you're not very intelligent at first. You're being played around by people, and you really think you can strategize. As the words fell, a silver needle slipped out of her hand. The silver needle pierced through the window and hit the assassin hidden in the bushes. Kill with one blow. No extra noise was made. Yu Xiaotuan was sleeping soundly. Yu Tsang stood up to deal with the body. This is the assassin sent by Yi Ruoshui again. She has been assassinated several times over the years. At the beginning, Yi Ruoshui planned to assassinate Mu Jianghan, but was discovered by his original identity and rescued from danger. Yi Ruoshui has always held a grudge against this, fearing that his secret would be exposed, so he has been trying to kill her for years. Previously, Yi Ruoshui accused her of framing the deceased prince of Qin, Muxunli. Later, he also wrote about her pregnancy, making her almost beaten to death by Mu Jianghan. She kept every detail in her mind. It's time to reclaim it now. She lay dormant in an unnamed courtyard for 5 years, and Yi Ruoshui also lived happily outside for 5 years. It is said that Prince Qin, Muxunli, has become the most favored prince by the emperor and may enter the eastern palace at any time. As the concubine of Prince Qin, Yi Ruoshui has also been thriving. But now, their good days are coming to an end. Since Mu Jianghan's leg fragments are fake, it would be a good opportunity for them to compete with each other, so that she can reap the benefits of the fisherman. Yu Tsang expressionlessly took out body powder from his sleeve and poured it onto the body. Green smoke rose, and a corpse instantly turned into a puddle of flour fat. After tidying up, it was already dawn. Yu Xiaotuan still has breakfast, so she decided to take care of the child first and make up for the sleep she missed last night in the afternoon. And just as she turned around, a sound suddenly came from the courtyard door. The door was kicked open by someone. A woman strode in with a few maids. Looking out at the overgrown weeds, I didn't expect to make do with it inside. Although this room is dilapidated, I can barely stay for now, the leading lady smiled. Yu Tsang. You are. Your Highness has an order. From today on, I will be the new steward here. Go and brew me a pot of hot tea. End of this chapter.